I'd like to call the August meeting of Cherokee Village City Council order. Please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's have a moment of silent prayer, please. Amen. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Rowland. Here. Crispy.
Here.
Tatum.
Here.
Heffley.
Here.
Ishmael.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Quorum established.
Thank you. Any public comments on the agenda items?
Mayor, you skipped something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Approval of
Thank-
agenda, I would like to amend the agenda. I have a ordinance that we started talking about in June of this year. I had some unforeseen things come up in July, and I'd like to have it put under old business. It's concerning ordinance 2016-4, and I will pass out a copy to everybody right now.
Okay.
The one correction on it, which really doesn't make a difference one way or the other, is the clerk is part-time, and it was, when I put a number in there, I was assuming it was full-time.
Mr. Martin's moved to add this item to the agenda. To have a second?
A second.
Okay. This should be added under, you requested under old business?
Correct.
Okay. That will be item number 3.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, any public comments?
Do we approve the agenda first?
Well, I think you're catching me. I'm trying to rush, I guess.
That's okay. I motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
I second.
Motion by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. Smith for approval of the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The agenda is approved. Okay, third time. Public comments or questions on the agenda? Hearing none. Okay. Next item, approval of the minutes from the July meeting.
I motion we approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Martin for approval of the minutes for the July meeting should be filed for audit. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Minutes should be approved. Correspondence, any correspondence, clerk?
None.
Thank you. Next item is the financial report.
I motion we approve the financials for audit.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Martin to approve the financial report for audit. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Financial report shall be so filed. Hold on just a second, folks. Okay, next item
is the mayor's report, and just have a couple of things to bring to your attention. We've been hosting the spay and neuter clinic out at the animal facility, and over a period of 3 days, they treated 75 cats and 44 dogs. I received a clearance from the Corps of Engineers regarding the extension on the Tohia Trail. That's just one more hoop that we've jumped through. We're still waiting to hear from RDOT and the environmental section on that. So it's been a long haul, and it's still a long haul. That's all I have for mayor's report. Next are the department reports. Any questions on animal control, community service? District Court, I'd also remind you that District Court will be here in this room tomorrow. Fire Department, any questions on that?
Mayor? That auction, did that go through, and do we get monies out of that, or do we still have stuff left over from that?
Pardon?
The auction for the excess equipment from the fire department, did that get dispersed, or we still have a bunch of that left? Did the equipment
Has all the equipment been sold?
Oh, some of the equipment, I've actually got another fire department interested, so we'll go to another fire department. The chief there is very interested. He's at a conference right now. He's supposed to get back with me next week.
Okay.
Make arrangements to come look at it all.
Thank
Some of
you.
the other equipment will be going to an auction, or we'll figure out something to do.
P&Z code enforcement? I think it's good to see that we have construction going on in the village. And multiple roof repairs taking place and have been since the storm, and they're still ongoing. Whether they'll get finished by the end of the year will wait to be seen. Street committee report. Any questions, the street supervisor?
I have some questions about the committee. They, in their last committee meeting, I believe it was, they're talking about the bridge over Cherokee, and there was some talk about having the state come in and do it. That doesn't sound right. I mean,
Which,
I'm assuming it's the one over here that's going towards the golf course. If you read the report in the...
on Cherokee Road?
Yeah, on Cherokee Road. That's the one I'm assuming it is, and they're saying it needs to be shored up, and they're having a cement guy come in and check it out. But there was statements made that we should have the state come in and do it, and that's not a state road, so why would they even consider that?
I don't know, maybe, I'm sure that's a statement made of lack of knowledge. I agree with Mr. Martin that that's our responsibility.
I didn't know, that's why I double
Yeah.
checked. Thank you.
They might be able to come in and give us some advice on the repairs that need to be made.
Because they were also talking the county. Now, I know the county has done low water bridges in the county before, because they were talking about doing the other one on the end of the spring, not spring, the South Fork. But they wouldn't do the one up here in off of Flathead. So that's,
That particular bridge that you're inquiring about, the Main issue with that, of course, is when the high water and debris floats downstream, mainly large trees, and jam up against that bridge, or just the impact alone, and knock off chunks of concrete, and it's going underneath it, that, what they call that the spalls that are underneath there. We patched them, and just my observation alone, I think, fortunately we put up those wing walls, but I would be more concerned about the erosion at each end of the bridge washing out and causing an issue.
Do we,
It's being held, it's held together since Mr. Cooper built it, so.
do we have access through the municipal aid of an engineer to come in and take a look at it?
I think we can inquire of that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on department reports? I'd entertain a motion they be.
I move that we accept all the department reports as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Martin. Who made that second? You
Second.
Oh, Mr. Christophe, thank you. Second by Mr. Christophe, accept all the department reports. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Department reports will be so filed. You have your other reports. No report from A&P. Unless Mr. Smith, you have anything you want to?
We are still moving forward with 2024 for the eclipse in this area. We'll be joining forces with the surrounding cities, create a committee, so we're all on the same page when we're working on it.
Okay. See the airport report. The Tri-County recycling, I hear there's a possibility that, well, it says in the report, but they're going to be having to look for a new manager out there. The current manager will be leaving. Welcome Center. You had 122 visitors through May through July from various states, plus one foreign country from Switzerland.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, at this time, I would like to take just a moment to acknowledge Betty Stokes for the amount of work that she has put into the Welcome Center. We have sent out 135 welcome packets to about 17 different states due to the convention we went to last January, and Betty has single-handedly gotten those done. She's ordering all the clothing that comes through there, and she keeps everything organized within that area and make sure that all the scheduling's done so there's a body in there to greet people. It's no small task that she performs every month.
Thank you. Next item would be old business. This is Deborah Dean. You requested. Mrs. Dean, are you here? Step up to the podium. Please state your name and address and proceed with your remarks.
Thank you, Mayor Stokes. My name is Deborah Dean, and my address, do you want it to? Is it my address?
Yeah.
My address.
Yeah, street.
It's 48 Delaware Drive, Cherokee Village, Arkansas. And I'm here once again to advocate that the City Council amend Ordinance 1999-4 that currently prohibits residents from owning chickens. We, of course, are proposing that residents own no more than 5 hens and no rooster. At the last City Council meeting, I put forth the argument that owning chickens could help provide an additional layer of protection against being bitten by the Lone Star tick that causes the alpha-gal syndrome that so many Cherokee Village residents suffer from since the chickens eat the ticks. And experts from both the state of Arkansas and the University of Arkansas Extension acknowledged to me that the presence of chickens in combination with several other control methods of tick control can help further reduce the chance of being bitten by the Lone Star tick. It's not a magic bullet, but it's an extra layer of protection. But now let's consider some other arguments for allowing residents to have chickens in Cherokee Village as a source of fresh eggs. As we know, urban agriculture has grown tremendously in popularity in recent years all over the country due to the events going on in the world. Prior to World War II, it was very common for Americans to own chickens in their backyard, and people are returning to this practice. Some of the largest cities in the United States allow urban chickens, including New York City, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. But closer to home, our own neighbors, like the city of Highland, allows chickens. The city of Salem allows chickens, and the city of Hardy allows chickens. Off-grid homesteaders and preppers from numerous states are seeking to move here to Cherokee Village and produce some of their own food. These folks do their research online, and they discover that the Ozarks are one of the more highly rated regions in the United States for off-grid preparedness. They do this not only because they want fresher, healthier chickens that are grass-fed in their yard and pets for their children, but because they've read that the chances of regional long-term blackouts in different parts of the country are possible. We saw what happened in Texas a couple of years ago with their electrical grid, for example. Even the chances of a complete U.S. electrical grid collapse have increased significantly in recent years. When you add in the fact that our isolated country community, real estate is relatively inexpensive here, and there's an abundance of wildlife, vegetation, and water, our city is the perfect storm for attracting off-grid preppers and homesteaders. And they're going to keep coming here. It's going to increase. I am told that the online chick hatcheries are sold out right now because of the high demand for home chickens. One local realtor told me this week in Cherokee Village that he receives 2 or 3 calls a month, each month, from people who want to find a property in Cherokee Village where they can raise chickens. He then has to explain to them that the city does not permit this. Now this represents 24 to 36 families a year for just this one realtor's calls. And when you multiply that by at least 30 realtors showing listings here in the village, this could mean, a healthy number of families that are being told, no, you cannot move into Cherokee Village and have chickens. So they find properties outside the city limits. There could be as many as 50 realtors showing Cherokee Village properties, I'm told. And by the way, this particular realtor that I spoke with signed the Cherokee Village for Chickens petition in favor of amending the ordinance to allow chickens. Some of the people who have signed the petition that Tammy and Kurt Schleich have circulated have indicated they have been disappointed to move here and find out that they cannot own chickens. Others move here and simply move away after they find out about our ordinance. The city is losing growth and revenue that these families bring to our community. Cherokee Village is no longer the community that it was 20 or 30 years ago. The world has changed, the city demographics have changed, and the needs and desires of people who come here have changed, and it's a continuous dynamic. We need to accommodate these shifting needs and goals. And if our city isn't flexible and it fails to adapt and plan for a demographic segment such as that of the homestead gritters, we may lose out on potential revenue and growth. We can be both a retirement resort community and an urban homesteader community compatibly, and with good permits and policies and citations for those who don't comply with ordinance restrictions. We can hammer this out and we can reason together. As more grid homesteaders come, we could see even more people owning chickens illegally. without restriction, without guidelines, without permits, and we don't want that happening. We want this done the right way. I know of people who own chickens here illegally. 5 chickens are really not a big deal. And the argument that chickens' excrement is such an issue is not really a compelling one. The excrement of 5 chickens actually only equals that of a single average-sized dog. And it's not even as toxic as that of a dog. And we have lots of dogs in Cherokee Village. With proper permits and policies put in place, we can avoid even having chickens go on to our beautiful golf courses. We need to listen to the voices of our wonderful lakefront homeowners and our avid golfers. But we also need to listen to the voices of our off-grid homesteaders, because they're an important part of the population and of our potential population. The USDA they project a global food shortage this fall, which, while it will not to cause a famine in the U.S., it could significantly increase our food prices over what they already are now, or it could even slow distribution in the food chain and affect availability of food on our shelf. Fox News reported last week that egg prices have risen 47% last year. So let's be realistic and let's respond to modern trends as cities all over the country have done by allowing people to get back to nature and live more independently as they want to. Amending Ordinance 1999-4 can result in population growth and revenue to the city, and even assist with food security to those who want to raise their own food. Let's not shut these people out. Let's welcome them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item under old business, revisit approval for accepting credit cards. Mr. Thompson.
During the planning meeting that was open on Monday evening, I believe that Mr. Smith made a statement concerning his position on that, and I don't know if you want to expound on that, or if you wanted him to have those comments, or if you wanted me to share the comments from Monday evening.
That's Mr. Smith. What's your first preference there?
I think with the conversations that we've had, I'm willing to withdraw my request that the council back this.
Okay.
We will need to take a vote on it, Mr. Mayor.
I don't know. Do we, Mr. Abel? That was a motion way back when to pursue looking into
Credit cards at City Hall.
It was a motion in April, and it was a motion last meeting. So on a motion, it takes the majority of the people that are here at City Hall, not the majority of the whole, correct?
I think even in the motions, it still takes you got a full quorum, so it'll be the same number tonight. And yeah, you can't go wrong with the motion. If Rob wants to withdraw whatever approval he had, then the city council accept.
Yeah, I motion that we withdraw the authorization to look at credit cards for City Hall business.
I second that.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Martin, to withdraw the authorization to pursue the credit card project for City Council. Guess we need a roll call vote on that, please.
Thompson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Rowland,
Yes.
Christophe,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Heffling,
Yes.
Ishmael.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay. Next item under old business is, the item is amended to the agenda, ordinance 2022- whatever that number would be.
We're amending old ordinance 2016-4, and basically what 2016-4 is, prior to an election for a clerk and a mayor, the city council can set a salary. It was set at $19,000 and $13,000 in 2016-4. Due to our finances...
Excuse me, Mr. Martin, I think I need a motion.
I'm so moved.
Okay, then I need a second.
You're right.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. Heffley to
Put it on the floor.
put this ordinance on the floor.
Should I continue?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Go ahead.
So basically what it is that's the only time the council can change a mayor's salary or a clerk's salary other than the mayor or the clerk reducing it themselves. So I put some numbers in here. I think the council might come up with some other numbers, but I said let's set the mayor's salary at $16,000 a year. And I wanted the clerks to be the same thing, but since it's part-time, we'd only do half of that, so $8,000 a year. That just sets it for when we're budgeting for next year. Now, as soon as we have a new council, and I'd say it'd probably be depending on, we have 3 different candidates, depending on their experience, we'd probably want to pay the more experienced candidates more than we would the less experienced candidates, I'm assuming. But that's up to council. That's not me. I just wanted to lower it because we can always raise it, but we cannot lower it after it's been set after the election. And I tried to do it before we even knew who the candidates were, so there wouldn't be a hang up on that, but I had things happen in my life and I couldn't get it done, so I apologize for that.
Okay, let me read the ordinance, please. The clerk's got a little cough problem, so I'll be reading the ordinances and the resolutions this evening. An ordinance amending ordinance 2016-4, establishing a base rate of salary for the newly elected mayor and city clerk of the city of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, and for other purposes. Ordinance 2016-4 is amended as follows. Section 1, a newly elected mayor of the city of Cherokee Village, Arkansas shall be paid the sum of $16,000 per annum as base salary. For the purposes of this ordinance, the term newly elected mayor refers to a person who has not been the immediately preceding mayor of the city of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, and does not apply to the incumbent mayor being re-elected. Section 2, a newly elected city clerk of the city of Cherokee Village, Arkansas shall be paid the sum of $16,000 per annum as base salary. For the purposes of the ordinance, the term newly elected city clerk refers to a person who has not been the immediately preceding city clerk of the city of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, and does not apply to the incumbent city clerk being re-elected. Section 3. Any additional benefits or compensation to be granted a mayor and our city clerk shall be authorized by the city council when deemed appropriate. Section 4. If any provision of this ordinance or the application thereof to any person or circumstances is held invalid, such invalidity shall not affect other provisions or applications of the ordinance which may be given effect without the invalid provision or application. And to this end, the provisions of this ordinance are declared severable. Emergency clause. It being necessary for the continued orderly operation and fiscal planning of the city of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, and for certainty in the administration of the city council of Cherokee Village, Arkansas recognizes and declares emergency to exist. And this ordinance, being necessary for the preservation of the public peace, health, comfort, convenience, morals, safety, and welfare of the city of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, shall be in full force and effect from and after January 1, 2023.
And this wouldn't affect the current clerk because she's already the clerk. It would only affect the people that are running for mayor. So my thing is, let the council set it low, and then once we know what our budget is and stuff, find out who the mayor is, determine their qualifications, and set it appropriately then.
What are the current salaries for those two positions?
The current ordinance would be 2016-4, and I believe it was $19,000 for the mayor, and it was $13,000 for the clerk as a full-time clerk.
No, it's part-time.
Well, no, on that ordinance, it was still a full-time clerk, 2016 was still a full-time
Now,
clerk.
that would have been, it would have been 17.5, I believe, for the clerk.
Okay, 17.5. Just for some reference,
Just to, while he's doing some research, just to clarify that when I took office, the base salary was $18,000.
and you reduced it, I thought, too, didn't you? You didn't take the whole,
No, that's what it was when I
okay,
took office.
okay. Just for.
Some of that salary's gone back to the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would,
Highland clerk makes 35,000. Highland mayor makes $16,432. Their ordinance sets them back to the mayor at $8,400 and the clerk at $20,400. Hardy's recorder is making $20,000 and their mayor is making $14,400. So that's the numbers that they're set at for after the election.
Mr. Thompson?
I would point out that the current mayor has made several donations to the city over his 2 terms that I think if you went back and did an audit of his contributions, that would have substantially reduced the annual compensation in terms of a return to the city. So perhaps that's a point of discussion. You know, I don't know whether that would have any bearing on what you're proposing. I understand the concerns that you have, but I think for clarification of the audience and for the community at large, I think it is worth noting that we're not talking about a couple of $100 here annually. You know, the mayor has has in turn contributed significant amounts of his annual compensation as gifting back to the city.
And we don't know if we're going to have a new mayor like that or not. So
No,
that mayor,
No, I
he
understand.
should.
I'm not
Yeah.
disputing your point.
Yeah.
Your point is very well taken, Mr. Martin. I appreciate it. I just was a point of information for the public at large.
Mhm.
They should be made aware of that this mayor has given substantially back of his annual compensation back to the city. Just a point of information, that's all. Not a point of
understand.
disagreement with what you're proposing here.
Any other comments?
So the numbers I put down were just setting it at a lower level so that the council, when we set our budget for 2023, can raise that, but we cannot lower it past whatever level is set. And this should be something I believe the council should review every election cycle and set prior to that. Maybe do it in January, so there's no thought of hanky-panky being done. Do it early enough so it won't make a difference around election time. And I hope we have people running for mayor that aren't looking for a salary but are looking to do the job because it needs to be done. Salary helps. But we are a group of people that don't take a salary either. And every other little second-class city does. So kudos to everybody sitting on council and doing it for good reasons.
However, I'd like to respond to that. At one time, council members were compensated,
For a brief period.
and at the rate of $50 a meeting,
Yeah.
or maybe it was $100 a meeting.
At one point.
It was $100 a meeting, and then due to budgetary considerations, the following year it was reduced to $50 a meeting, and then the following year it was eliminated due to budgetary considerations. The money could be better used elsewhere in the city's operations.
And we're the only city that does that. So I admire everybody that sits up here and does this, because this job takes a little bit out of you, a lot of it out of you, if it's done right. So the only reason I bring it in front of you is you heard my terms. Does anybody think the prices or the salaries are too high, too low? And the other thing that should be mentioned was I put the money in there as a clerk as a full-time person rather than a clerk as a part-time person. It doesn't affect the clerk because it won't affect the clerk this year. So,
Let's see,
I have a question. On the 16,000, you said that it could be increased during budget negotiations. Wouldn't this not permit that to happen? Wouldn't this, you couldn't go over the 16?
no, that's just for an incumbent elected official. And the only two officials it affects is the clerk and the mayor. Since the clerk is already established and nobody's running against her, it doesn't affect her. It just affects the three people that are running for mayor.
Correct.
So I say we set it at a level now, and then when we do our budget, we'll know what person takes that seat, and we can either review it and say, well, this person's got more experience, maybe they should have some more money, or, you know, should we give everybody the same amount of money that a mayor that's been here for 8 years gets? I don't think so.
my interpretation, Mr. Abel, you could correct me on this, would be that the newly elected mayor would at least have to serve 1 year before, I think, and that's been practice, before even consideration was given in budget to increase their salary.
The council has it at their disposal to increase salary anytime they want to,
And you can amend the budget.
anytime.
Yeah. Now, for historical purposes, as I said earlier, the salary, I can think, I don't want to be quoted on this, if I go way back, I think the mayor's salary, I don't know about the first mayor, but I think the second mayor, Mr. Maynard, salary was around $15,000, I believe. It could have been less than that. And I don't know, you wouldn't know what your grandfather's salary would be, by chance.
I can't recall anymore.
And I'm thinking it was around 17.5 perhaps when Mr. Heffley was serving as mayor. And when I came on board, it was 18, and it remained that way for a couple of years, and then entered an annual increase that was agreed upon and inserted in the budget over a period of 4 years. And at the end of that 4 years, that was frozen at that amount unless the council decided to increase the salary, and that applied both to the mayor and the clerk.
But that resolution no longer holds any water.
Yeah.
So the whole point is the council can raise salary whenever it feels it's necessary. And I don't know if we're going to have a part-time mayor or full-time mayor. Don't know. We won't know until after the election to see how the mayor is.
See who's seated in the chair.
Correct. And I think it would be better for us to make those decisions once we know the demeanor of the person that's taking that seat. If that makes sense.
Any other comments, questions?
I think my only suggestion is that I think the clerk should remain the same salary as the mayor because of the amount of work that goes into it.
I don't disagree with that, and all I was told was, I base this on full-time salaries, so if we're basing it on part-time salaries, we'd have to cut it out, but it doesn't make any difference for this clerk,
No.
so.
I think you would, if it stayed a part-time position, then you would have to review it and
Right, but we cannot lower it after this point in time. We'd have to wait 4 more years to do it.
Mr. Thompson.
I have one question. And I guess this would apply, we can address this question to the two positions separately. But on average, being that you've been in the office for this is your 8th year, what is the average number of hours on a weekly basis that you would guesstimate that you put in on city business? Now that's not only here in your office, but if you're in Little Rock at a municipal league or whatever, on behalf of the city, do you have just a general feel of how many hours? And I'm going somewhere with that, if you don't mind. Indulge me.
That could vary day to day. It's a part-time position. I'm here for a 40-hour week. But some hours are not all dedicated to city business. In all fairness, I would think it would probably be 36 hours a week, maybe.
Okay, so bear with
Or
me
less,
here.
but it's I've been in here on Saturdays, once in a while on Sunday.
No, I understand. So
It's
in a standard, and I'm just speaking from running a business, the standard annual salary of compensation is based on 2,080 hours a year. So if you take your salary that you're proposing in your ordinance of 16,000 and divide that by 2,080 hours, you come up with $7.69 an hour. My question is, how does that relate to minimum wage? And are we in violation of wage laws?
Minimum
If-
wage is 11. No.
So,
that doesn't apply to elected officials.
Apply to elected officials,
Well,
and I'm just saying, we all have to hire people, and at least I do in my business. And I'm not saying, I realize there's no application, but, the current federal minimum wage is what, you said, $11?
That's the federal plus the state. In Arkansas, it comes to 11.
So you're at $11, and so what you're saying is that on average, we're going to be setting a wage level that is below minimum wage. Just a point of information, and for you to consider, and I didn't know if you might have considered that.
No, I did not.
Okay. And then you can go address that as it pertains to the clerk, because the clerk is more, and again, I don't know where you might want to go with that.
Well,
And how that may or may not impact the ordinance that you're putting
and
forward.
when the council goes to set those salaries after the election, for 2023, I think all those things should be considered. But what has happened in the past, not in this council, but in other councils, Hardy was one of them. They found out who was elected as the mayor, and they tried to lower the salary after they saw who was elected to council. No, Cherokee Village tried to do it once with Ray Maynard. Ray Maynard tried to pass an ordinance through that lowered the mayor's salary when Mr. Heffley was going to be on. And I actually stopped that because they were trying to pass an ordinance, and I refused. And they said, oh, the city's going to close down. And no, we adopted a resolution, and it went on just fine. So, yes, it happened in this city once, where they found out who was elected, and they tried to lower the salary at budget time. That's why I'm trying to do it before the election, so that we can reset. We can always go up, we can't go down. And I don't know what a reasonable down number is. And that's why I'm asking you, what's a reasonable base salary? Leave it the way it is, 19 something and 13,000, or if we go up from there or down from there? I don't know, and it depends on who gets on it.
I think, excuse me for interrupting you, Mr. Martin, I think that's the crucial question, is who gets elected, and what their work ethic is, and how they view the position.
And the council.
I can only speak for myself, and those of you who work with me, you know how I view it.
Right.
And that that won't apply necessarily to my successor. So every individual's different.
Right, and we don't know how much money we're gonna have to deal with for next year.
You know.
Personally, I'd rather see another fireman put on, another person that's roads and streets put on, because that's something where we need to get more holes patched, everybody will agree. I believe the whole Fulton County side would like to have somebody sitting there to go on, we don't have anybody over in the Fulton County side on a constant basis right now, do we?
No, I probably will a few shifts in the next month or so, just because of how things worked out, but for the most part.
But it would be nice to have another person to be able to sit over at the Fulton County side. So, I mean, I would rather see the council be directing money that way and find out how the mayor is and adjust their salary according to their performance. And that's all we're doing. We're setting it low so we can adjust to their performance and their qualifications.
To respond to your concerns about the budget, I mean, right now, things look pretty good, pretty solid budget-wise. And hopefully that continues. I don't have the report for July on the sales and use tax. That should show up probably next week, so.
But we won't know until December is when you disclose next year's budget to us,
Yeah.
correct? So,
We have, well, that's a topic for another
yeah.
meeting.
Well,
I don't want to get into that. Any other comments on this?
I just think it's a good way for us to be responsible for taxpayer dollars, because if you have a mayor that comes in and only puts in 10 hours a week, you know, if we don't have the opportunity to take a look at that, you know, it's a waste of taxpayer dollars. So I like what you did here, Peter. I think it's a really good idea.
And this ordinance should be reviewed every time there's an election year of mayor and clerk, and done accordingly prior to the election.
I've got one more question that pertains
Mr.
to
Thompson.
a very good point that was just raised by Councilperson Rowland. So, do you want to have anything in this ordinance, since you're talking about a dollar amount? Do you want to have some reference in terms of whether or not it is the position realizes a person in that takes that position that provides a certain minimum number of hours a week? I mean, is that something that you're looking at a compensation. I guess I'm struggling with, we have this lump sum, and then they might put in 10 hours, which I would say if they're putting in 10 hours a week, possibly this is too much compensation. And, do you want to tie something from the standpoint of a minimum number of hours that somebody's going to put into the job, whether it's the mayor or the city clerk?
I don't think we have the authority to do that. So by setting the hours low, we can correct it.
You're not setting the hours, you're
By setting the salary low, we can correct it.
Okay.
And maybe it should be lower, I don't know, but that's just for every time there's a newly elected clerk or mayor, this should be reviewed, a number should be set, and that way, once they're elected, we can change it to whatever's needed, depending on what we see.
You're going to be reviewing it every time you prepare the budget for the succeeding year.
Yeah. But if we don't
We
have.
have an ordinance on the books that defines the mayor's position as being a part-time position.
Mhm.
So that means
We've never defined part-time.
30 hours or less. I don't know if you wanted to change that or whatever. I think it's a step in the right direction. Any other comments? Otherwise, I entertain a motion to call for the question.
Well, I'm almost ready for that if the numbers are okay, everybody? Okay. Then I would like to make a motion that we waive the rules and read by title only, I want to do it 3 times all at once. What's the right wording for that?
Did you want to bring it up for final passage?
So they want to bring it up for final passage, so we don't have to do it 3 times.
Okay.
So that's my motion.
Second that.
Motion by Mr. Martin to read by title only, second by Mr. Heffley.
Christopher.
Christophe, I'm sorry.
For final passage, yes.
My hearing aid's not working real well. Okay. I need to read it by title only then.
So,
An ordinance amending ordinance 2016-04 establishing a base rate of salary for the new elected mayor and city clerk of the city of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, and for other purposes.
I make a motion, it's approved.
no, you have to vote on that motion to waive the rule. It's on the table, on the floor now. You have to vote on the motion to waive the rule.
Okay.
I need another motion.
No, you got the
No,
motion.
we got the motion to waive the rules, so I motion that we waive the rules, correct?
Second it.
Now you have to
Do this
vote on
time.
that.
Okay, motion by Mr. Martin, second Mr. Heffley, to suspend the rule. Roll call vote, please.
Rowland,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Heffley,
Yes.
Ishmael,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
and Martin.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay.
So I make a motion, we bring this up for final passage.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. Heffley, to adopt this ordinance 2022 dash, whatever the number will be, to amending ordinance 2016-04. Roll call vote, please.
Christopher,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Heffley,
Yes.
Ishmael,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
and Rowland.
Yes.
I make a motion, we accept the emergency clause.
Can I interject something? I think you need to make the emergency clause effective immediately rather than January 1st. That's written.
My question is, do we need an emergency clause?
It-
Because it's
I think you do because the election is coming up.
Yeah, we have to have this done before the election.
before the hour, I gotcha.
So we need a motion to adopt the emergency clause.
You want to amend the emergency clause to become effective immediately.
Yeah. So we change the last line to immediately instead of after January 1st?
Yes.
So then I have to make a motion to amend it first? And then?
No, because
That's part of the motion.
Yeah, that's part of the motion.
So I motion that we amend the emergency clause, the last line, instead of January 4th, the first be immediately.
And I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. Heffley, to amend the last line in the emergency clause to read, "shall be in full force and effect immediately on adoption of this ordinance." Be sure you get the last phrase in there. Okay, roll call vote again, please.
Tatum,
Yes.
Heffley,
Yes.
Ishmael,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Rowland,
Yes.
Christopher.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Everything's done now, right?
Well, we got to vote on the emergency clause now.
Well, I thought you just voted on the emergency clause.
We voted on the amendment to the emergency.
Oh, okay.
Okay, then I move that we accept the emergency clause as amended.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. Heffley, to approve the emergency clause to this ordinance. Roll call vote again, please.
Ishmael,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Rowland,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Hathaway,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay. Next item is Resolution 22, adopting a stipend for law enforcement.
Mayor, are we gonna skip the short-term use permit or do the permits at last, or?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm skipping all that. I tell you, why don't we, if you, council doesn't object, why don't we combine both of those special use permits?
I make a motion that we pass the short-term special use permit for Phil and Boot and the short-term special use permit for the Highland Elks Lodge annual turkey shoot.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. Heffley to approve special use permit for fire department's Fill the Boot and for the turkey shoot sponsored by the Highlands Elks Lodge. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Permits are those approved, and then they'll be picked up. Okay, now, the resolution regarding the police stipend. A resolution amending the 2022 adopted budget for the purpose of receiving and expending the $5,000 stipend for eligible full-time law enforcement officers. Whereas the Arkansas General Assembly passed Act 224 in 2022 during the 2022 fiscal session. Whereas through passage of Act 224 of 2022, the Arkansas General Assembly appropriated $50,000 to provide a one-time salary stipend for eligible full-time law enforcement officers. Whereas eligible full-time law enforcement officer is specifically defined under Act 224 and the city-town does not have discretion to change the definition. And whereas each eligible full-time law enforcement officer is entitled to a one-time salary stipend of $5,000, employee payroll deductions will be applied as required by law. And whereas the City Council of the City of Cherokee Village, Arkansas has determined that the city's 2022 budget should be amended for the purpose of receiving the revenue for the one-time salary stipend funding from the state of Arkansas and expending the one-time salary stipend to eligible full-time law enforcement officers. Now therefore be it resolved, the City Council of the City of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, that this ordinance, well, it should be said resolution here. We'll have to make that change. This resolution shall be known as the Amendment Budget Resolution for the City of Cherokee Village, Arkansas for the remaining budget period beginning January 1, 2022 and ending December 31, 2022. Section 2, the amount for the expenditure proposed in the amended 2022 city budget is hereby approved by the City Council of the City of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, and is hereby authorized and appropriated for the purposes set forth for the remainder of the calendar year ending December 31st, 2022. Any
Do we have a
question?
dollar amount on that stipend? It's $5,000 per person?
Yes.
Okay. I make a motion, we accept that.
Hold on just a second, Peter. It's just a typo, but under the second whereas, it says heel time instead of full time. So that'll be something we need to correct.
That's been corrected, just.
Not on this. Gotcha.
You got fuel, you say?
No, it says heel time.
Well, not on mine, but thank you for bringing that up. We have a motion to approve?
Correct. A motion to accept
This
the
resolution?
resolution as read.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Well, hold on, it can't be as read, can it? Because
Oh,
we say.
okay,
with
as
the change-
amended.
As amended, there you go. Sorry.
You got my second again?
Do you have a second?
Yes, second.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. Heffley for approval of this resolution. Roll call vote, please.
Thompson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Rowland,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Hefley,
Yes.
Ishmael.
Yes.
Motion passed.
The police department will be happy. Next item, Mrs. DeWitt requests to make comments related to city council meeting of July 21, 2022. Please come to the podium, state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Mary DeWitt, and I live in 95 Saginaw Circle. I'm here tonight because of a comment that was made in the July meeting, and it was kind of a throwaway remark by someone who has exhibited propensity to try to collect information, however erroneous or incomplete, and I would like to follow up on that and perhaps inform you more about what Mrs. Stokes does, and that she doesn't get paid just to answer phones around here. Several years ago, she started to fill in for the administrative assistant when he or she was ill, off, whatever. And at some point, when Chuck McMahon was on this council, he noticed that the lady was putting in a 40-hour week. So he suggested that the council consider paying her when she does the work that Misty undertakes now. It's more than just answering the phone, believe me. Besides that, Betty runs the court, the district court, which used to be a paid position, hasn't been, but when she does get paid for her duties out here in front, she too turns back her salary. Betty paid for the lunches this week at the spay-neuter clinic. She also pays and buys the food and makes the food for district court. When the attorneys and the judge comes in, they have breakfast and lunch here. She's covered for the district clerk when she's on vacation. She worked as a court recorder, also a previously paid position. And in between, thankfully, we now have a wonderful animal control officer, but whenever we haven't had one, it's been a very up and down kind of position lately. Betty has single-handedly run the shelter. She gets paid nothing for this. I just wanted to clarify that. And since it's on the record as a throwaway remark, I'm asking for an apology to Mrs. Stokes.
Have you read the ordinance? Do you know there's an ordinance for Mrs. Stokes in the Cherokee Village
That's
office? And I do not,
I'm sorry, Mr. Martin,
yes.
can we allow the time to the person?
Well, she just,
Yeah, I'm just saying that this is not a discussion or a back and forth debate. I mean, she asked for time in front of council. If she completes her time and you'd like to comment on her remarks, I just, as a point of courtesy, you know, we've sat and listened to the other person that asked for time before council, and none of council interrupted that discussion
sure she
or that
She
presentation.
just looked at me and asked me to do something, and I'm responding to that. I'm assuming
I'm
you're
sorry,
done.
I
Are you
apologize.
finished with that?
I am
I didn't realize
Okay.
that that was,
So,
my apologies, Mr. Martin, I didn't.
no. I'm saying, I just read what the ordinance was, and my snide remark was about the ordinance, not about her and her philanthropy. She does a lot. I've known her way back when she was on Master Gardeners. I used to do things for her when I worked at Computer Source.
I'm just
I
asking.
know what she does, and I wasn't belittling her. I was stating that once before, we had a problem where the city council had to catch up because they were paying somebody, and that's the assumption I made about that ordinance. Notice I said assumption, I don't have fact right now. Assumption I made about that ordinance, she was already getting paid, and then we had to correct it. And that's what happened last time with the clerk. She was already getting paid, and we had to correct it. So that's why I was asking the mayor if he would set up procedure for when something like that happens, instead of us correcting something that the auditors come in and find. So it wasn't a slight at Mrs. Stokes, and I have the utmost respect for her.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, no,
for-
and if she thinks I need to apologize to her, I'll be more than happy to say it to her face.
That would be fine.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. My only comment there would be that when that ordinance was passed to pay the spouse of an elected official, I was opposed to that ordinance, but council voted against it, so.
I, in my research, thought it was part of correcting a mistake. And if I'm wrong, I
No,
apologize to you for that. But that's how I read it when I was going through and reading
No,
ordinances.
that was,
So, but no, everybody, Mrs. Stokes is a lovely lady. I have nothing against her. She does a lot for the community. You see her out here every Christmas decorating the place. She's in that room. She's just all over the place. So my comments last meeting were not directed towards her, but the resolution and how things were done as far as resolutions and ordinances. So it wasn't a slight towards Mrs. Stokes. Sorry if it came off that way.
okay, let us move on to the next item of new business is resolution disclaimer of interest. A resolution
Can
of
I
the...
make a motion just to read it by title only, so you don't have to go through the whole, because we all got the gist of it. I can do that, yes, Jack? Sure.
Title only? I second that.
Okay, motion by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. Smith to read by title only. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So be it. A resolution of the City of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, authorizing the mayor to execute a disclaimer of interest in the estate of Lois Mock, deceased.
Now we can discuss? Yes? The only question I have is, there's a liens or something against it, and that's why the city doesn't want it, correct?
As Mr.
Now, Ms. Mock left money to the city animal control shelter through her trust.
Mm-hmm.
Right before she died, she inherited this lot.
Okay.
The cost of collecting this lot was going to be the same value that the lot has. So
Yeah.
the city's not going to get anything
Yeah.
out of this, and I'd just like you to disclaim your interest to make it easier.
Thank you. I move that we pass the motion.
Second. Motion by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. Tatum to approve the resolution of disclaimer of interest. Roll call vote, please.
Smith,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Rowland,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Heffley,
Yes.
Ishmael,
Yes.
and Thompson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Before we get into public comments, I would like to slip my mind when I was giving my report, but the police department also received a grant through, I'm not sure what, Chief, what's the name of that program? Is that a JAG grant?
Through the Arkansas State Police.
But it's provides funding to the department, and it will be available again in 2023 with the potential that the department could receive almost $45,000 through this program. And was that per month or annually?
That's annually.
Okay. So, depending upon the funds that are available, and I'm not sure where their funds are coming from, but it was a welcome surprise. And credit goes to Sergeant Buchanan for doing the legwork on that and submitting it. All right, now comments on...
Can I say something real quick here? Can I say something?
Yes, Mr.
All right.
Ishmael.
So I'm Eddie Eshwam, one of your council people. I've been following the chicken debate closely, obviously, because I'm here at the meetings, but one of the things that I wanted to make sure everybody knows, so I'm a real estate broker by trade. That's what I do every day. The city, as a city council, we do not have the authority to amend a bill of assurance. So that is something that the people in that subdivision, so we all live in a subdivision, and if you live in Cherokee Village, you have your own specific subdivision with a lot and block, and you get it with your tax statement every February, March. You have to get the people in that subdivision to get behind the vote and change the subdivision bill of assurance in regards to this particular matter, which is chickens. The city does not have the authority to do that. We cannot supersede those bills of assurances. The only way those bills of assurances are enforced is if one of your neighbors decides to sue you to enforce that bill of assurance. So as far as the city moving forward with a chicken ordinance, I mean, you're still going to be subject to your neighbor suing you over your bill of assurance, because we can't supersede it. I mean, that would be like giving us, city council, the ability to tell everybody in the village they have to paint their house a certain color.
And we have done that in the past.
Well, we don't have the authority to do that. We don't have the authority to go around a bill of assurance. Those were set back by Mr. Cooper years ago, and those are common practice once a community is developed. So regardless of the community, whether it's here, Jonesboro, wherever, those are set forth by whoever develops them. So we can't go around those bill of assurance regardless of what we do. Mr. Abel may know more about how to amend those bills of assurance. I do not, because I've never done a bill of assurance amendment deal. I've been selling real estate for 8 years, and it's not been something that's come up with me. So,
Well, how would you amend it?
huh?
I don't like putting a problem on the table without a solution, so what would be the amendment process?
Well, the amendment process would be you would have to get a real estate attorney involved, and then you have to notify, I believe it's everybody that's in that subdivision, and there's also a time frame on it. So bill of assurances are renewed annually without a vote, typically every 5 to 10 years. So you would have to read your bill of assurance, and your bill of assurance is available online. So all the bill of assurances in Cherokee Village are on our website. You go to your deal, and it'll tell you where you're at, and it'll have it there exactly how it was typed out whenever Mr. Cooper developed them all.
And they are only for individuals to take people to court. The city has no say one way or the other about bills of assurance.
Correct.
And even if the city allows it in their ordinance, anybody in that neighborhood could still take somebody to court if they want to, because they have to live in that neighborhood
They have to live in that
and do it in that neighborhood. And depending on what our ordinance says and how things are, for instance, we allow fences. Let people put up fences, but a lot of those bills of assurance say no fences. So we are already doing that, but with fences. So bill of assurance only has the authority depending how deep your pockets are and who you want to take to court. And even though you do take it to court, that doesn't mean they're going to be in your favor. It all depends on the judge.
I guess my question still stands though, is like what's the process to see what
You have to notify everybody in there that you want to do a vote on your dime, so you have to pay for it yourself. And then you have to have a certain percentage of those. I can't remember all the percentages because again, I have never been a part of one. But you have to have a certain percentage of people show up to or do the vote, participate in the vote, and then have the majority of that percentage.
So basically, everybody in each of those divisions putting in a vote for the city, so the people of the city can go in and vote for that, is that what you're saying?
Well, they would put in, the property owners would put it in for their specific subdivisions.
Gotcha.
So one subdivision can't change it for all the subdivisions.
Right, that's what I meant, that
Yeah.
each subdivision would have to
Yes.
be on board, and then you'd have to organize that if you wanted to do one big thing, so they can all
Yeah.
knock it out at one go.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to amend the bill of assurance, you would need to get, the easiest route would be just to focus on your own specific subdivision, but, I mean, still, it's,
For clarity then, let me ask this question this way. The venue that you would pursue that change of the bills of assurance would be a court of law and not a city council. Is that, just
I
to
mean,
make sure
the
that...
city council is not going to be involved in changing the bill of assurance.
I understand. So...
I don't know if it technically has to go through,
I don't know.
I mean, it just doesn't change, you don't amend them very often. The only time they really get amended is in the beginning stages, and the guy that owns everything, he might change it mid-stroke, but I mean, we've been on these bill of assurances and had property changes so many times. We got people that live, you know, in other countries that you would have to notify and get some type of response from, and so that's just the knowledge that I'm giving you, and do with it what you wish.
Appreciate that.
So I do not care one way or the other if we have chickens or not. I'm not for or against them. So.
Okay, Mr. Owens. Please come to the podium. You have come to the podium, you have 3 minutes.
I'm anti-chicken, they just said everything I need to hear.
Okay. Mr. Steinmel. You can come to, use the podium there, state your name and address.
Trey Steinmel, 226 Lake Drive, Pocahontas, Arkansas. You're not the only county with a lake. I am on Republican ticket for State Representative District 2. I'm not going to take any of your time, I promise, because it's already been a long night. So if you'd like to visit with me after the meeting, I'd appreciate the opportunity to let you know about myself and let you know I want to represent y'all's community here. And I've been to many events, Mayor Stokes and a lot of the council can probably vouch for me on that, as well as the police and fire department. So appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Mr. Kurt Schlick. Name and address, please. Remember, 3 minutes.
My name is Kurt Schleich. I live at 33 Chinook Lane, Cherokee Village. Well, here we are again, looking at this issue of chickens in the village. I've heard all this about bills of assurance before. And, you know, I've heard arguments on both sides. People have opinions on the matter. But I'm asking you, as a city council, to consider this last point that I would like to make. All of you, I presume, took an oath of office when you took a position, correct?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
In that oath of office, I'm sure it says that you promise to defend and protect the U.S. Constitution.
Yes.
In the U.S. Constitution, the preamble states, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do, ordain, and establish this Constitution." My point is this: what does promote the general welfare mean? To provide the general welfare of the general public with regards to health, peace, morality,
and the safety of citizens. I ask each of you to think of all the citizens of Cherokee Village. By considering this chicken ordinance, you can definitely take a big step in fulfilling that pledge each of you took, especially when it comes to health and safety of all of us. This ordinance proposal has been revised 8 times, and it hasn't not been done in haste either. It's been thought out with regards to all. I ask you, please do the right thing and consider this ordinance. Put politics behind you and act according to the needs of the people here in the village and not party line politics. Help those in need of this ordinance. I thank each and every one of you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next, Mrs. Tammy Schlake.
Hello, I'm Tammy Schleit. I live at 33 Chinook Lane in Cherokee Village. Like you know, I have alpha-gal syndrome from tick disease. There's no cure, no medication. I just got to stay off all mammal products. I have to look at everything I buy in the stores to see if there's any kind of mammal stuff in there. Fats. You know, I can't take gel pills. They come from pigs. The gelatin comes from pig fat. Okay, I need chickens. If you don't let me get chickens, I'm going to get them, whether you like it or not, because I'm going to get them through the ADA. Alpha-gal syndrome is a disability. You're killing me by not letting me get chickens to try to help save my life. I don't have any close neighbors. Even if I did, I would put a fence up. He bought me a coop on wheels. I can move it around. He could move it around my yard. I need chickens. We put chemicals on our yards. Every year he does it twice a year. There's so many woods around. We got deer coming in our yard all the time. There's no cure for this stuff. I talked to somebody in the state. It's like, do the doctors have to report these cases to the health departments? No. Why not? It's a disability now. Well, we're working on it. It could take up to 2 years for doctors to have to report these. So we have no clue how many cases there are. I'm just asking you, please, please think about the people here. Think about yourselves and your friends and your families. You don't want this crap. I wasn't here last meeting because I got in the heat, and alpha-gal and the heat don't go too good together either. And when you told me that one time to stay in my house because I have alpha-gal, well, I'm staying in my house now. But it's not fair. Thank you. God bless you guys, and please, and if you can't help everybody, help the ones that need the help. And I'm telling you, if you don't pass it, there's going to be more and more people getting notes from their doctors, getting chickens. You will have no control because everybody's going to have some kind of tick disease. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Paul Hinch.
Paul Hench, 95 Saginaw Circle, Mayor, council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I was going to talk about basically the chickens with the bill of assurance. issues sort of cleared that up, but I still have probably one comment to make. And along with the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Whose happiness? That's a question that probably has to be answered. We can't please everybody, but you have to please the majority of the people, or allow the majority of the people to have the voice to direct and hopefully encourage the council to make the right decisions. So there's a lot of information floating around. As far as chickens are concerned, very few facts. Most of the information I've seen is unbelievably biased to the pro-chicken group, but there's a significant amount that would balance that out that would be anti-chicken. That's what we have to do. We have to review this information before we make decisions. It can't be based on emotions. It has to be based on facts. So that basically with the bills of assurance, like I said, that covers that. The next question I have is, there's a camera and a video being taken at every meeting. Where do we get to view that information? Why isn't it on the city council Facebook page or the city council? Somehow the website would have that, where the citizens who are not able to come to the meetings would be able to review the meeting minutes. That's it. Thank you.
I am working on that with the Carmen.
Yeah, it's,
I'm gonna give it to her so she can put it
oh,
up.
make sure everybody in the room hears that.
I'm gonna give
Thank
the
you.
video that I take for the cable company to Carmen, who's on the website, because she asked me if it's possible to put it up there. I don't know, does she need your permission, Mayor, to put that up on the website?
If we can post it.
Yeah, it's,
Have you talked to Carmen?
I just asked her if she could. She said that'd be neat, and I was gonna send her a copy this month to see if it worked.
That'll be.
So I do that, and then if you don't have Fidelity Cable, Channel 21, I usually post it up on a Facebook page that's Hardy P.E.G. Facebook. I throw them up there, and there's also a link to go to them on YouTube. And you can see all the towns and quorum court that I sit in and record, and I keep all the old ones up there. I don't take any of them down. And even SID, so, and they're putting theirs on their webpage, if that helps anybody. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments? If not, I entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. Heffley to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.